Hey everybody, this is Perch. Oh, it's another day and it's another exciting opportunity for the Perch channel. So let's see what this mail says. It says, Dear Perch Perchington. Okay. Okay, even in the spam mails, this name is starting to stick. Okay, it says, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel, Comics by Perch. It says, I hope this email finds you well. I am following up on my previous email regarding the potential of growing your subscriber base with the YouTube short strategy for Comics by Perch. I understand this may not be something that appeals to you at the moment, and that's perfectly fine. If you do not respond to the email, we will take it as a signal you are not currently interested in channel growth, and we will refrain from sending you any further follow-up emails in the future. Feel free to schedule a short call if this is of interest to you, and it's got a candidly link, which I should just put in description and let all of you schedule time, and then you could all pitch host channel however you want. Well, thank you for your time. Anyway, what's wacky is that this is this mail. There's been a lot of these mails, so this is not the first one. This mail is actually replying to previous emails, and there's been several, and so no, I it's not something that appeals to me at this time. So thank you for reaching out. I'm okay. Anyway, to the real mail, it says, Perch, there's so much talk about appealing to new readers, as well as talk about appealing to crusty old bastards like me who started reading comics in the 90s. Meanwhile, comics appeal to no one at all right now. Okay? I started reading right around the Image launch, and I recall picking up some of those books from the newsstand. What I'm finding more and more is that I'm drawn to comics from long before I started reading them, mostly late 70s and mid 80s. I'd like to hear or read your thoughts and experience on that subject. How could a publisher appeal to people who enjoy stories from a time when they were still pooping their pants and eating Play-Doh? When Dark Phoenix Saga was being published, my parents had just begun to realize the horrible mistake they had in choosing to have a child, and around the time Daredevil Born Again and Batman Year One were published, they doubled down on that mistake and had a sister. I love how parenthood is just getting a lot of respect on its name in this mail. Anyway, this is the era of comics I enjoy, even though I was barely cognizant of comics even existing at the time. Thanks a ton. So thank you for the mail. Look, I think there's a couple things in there. There's some hidden truths. And one of those is that, we hear about comics needing to appeal to a new generation, but if you looked at how comics appealed in the past to a number of different readers, many of the readers they appealed to weren't born. Meaning they think about it kind of this weird way. Somehow the comics that they were making in the 70s and 80s were designed to appeal to customers that hadn't been born yet. That's some good thinking. I mean, you got to hand it to like Jim Salicrup and people like that, who are clearly so far ahead of their time. They were able to make comics for people who just weren't even alive to know that they were the audience, which is pretty impressive. So I joke a little bit, but there's a clue in there around how comics that are written in kind of an evergreen format, with the idea that they can appeal kind of regardless of the generation, can still hold. And we know that this is a viable business market for one simple reason. Comic shops, the LCS, forever, but certainly since the 70s and 80s, and then including the comic shops today, many of them have back issues. They have comics in a box, and, they're able to not just, get people who have never, were not born when those comics come out, to desire those comics, and in many cases to pay far more than they were originally sold for. The back issue market is healthy. And yes, there's absolutely some of those people who buy back issues who are doing it for collector reasons, with the idea that if they buy the right back issues, it'll be a good investment. But to be honest, very, very few people who came into the comic shop completely thought that way. And to be clear, it's not like, people who are buying back issues are ignoring the collectability or, the value there. It's not like they're sleeping on that. It's that the primary goal is to read some of these stories. The primary goal is to actually get some of these comics. They're absolutely people who go and they grab back issues and they slab them and they get them graded and all the rest. I'm not saying none of that exists. It absolutely does exist. But But a lot of the people who got into back issues because they wanted to read them, because they liked those stories. And this has been a healthy part of the market for a long time. It's been core to comics. And what we see today is that a lot of, and you can go into comic shops, anyone you want to talk to, and the collectability of a lot of current issues is much lower. So this is an interesting question. So, by the way, that you can kind of start to getting this as a subjective, not objective, of a fact. If you go into comic shops and just ask them about kind of their back issue collection, what you'll find is that the majority of the back issues they have are from the 80s and from pretty much the 90s, and some from the aughts. They actually do not have that many back issues in their boxes from, 2012 and on. And why is that? Well, in many cases, it's because the comic shops ordered a lot less. It also, the comics are coming back into circulation less. There's just less desirability there. I think I'm making this point very poorly. It's been a day of making points badly, by the way, in and out of comics. Every time I try to make a point, it's come off incorrect. Anyway, not incorrect, just a point made badly, I guess. Back issues and having that collectability is a big deal. But more than that, it's the stories were ones that people wanted to go read. And nobody really, went looking through the back issues and said, I'd like to get these back issues of Batman or the Avengers or Spider-Man or whatever it happens to be. But I can't possibly, because they don't appeal to a new reader like me. People don't think that. Every now and then you hear that come up as a kind of an excuse from somebody of saying, well, the art style, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko don't appeal to today's readers. I'm not sure that's as true, by the way, as people let on. But regardless of that, a lot of these comics absolutely appeal to new readers, and we know this because the back issue market is thriving. And not all the people going to buy back issues are doing it to slab and grade their comics. A lot of them are doing it to read. So it's an interesting kind of phenomenon there. And I think there's another thing that you mentioned in the mail that I think is also true, which is, and this one's, I think, a harder point to land. So I'm going to double down on, making a point badly and go for an even worse point, but we'll give it a shot. It's this. It's the new comics are really not appealing in major ways to either new readers or old readers. We hear a lot about, the old crusty comic collectors who are near the death mark in their life, are not the audience for some of these new books. But neither are the new readers either. So the new readers aren't either. Nobody's coming to this. I'm sure that a lot of, classic, comic collectors who've been, getting books for 20, 30 years would look at something like Gwenpool and grind their teeth and say, this isn't for me. I don't like this. I wish this didn't exist. It's not for me. I don't know. People actually don't say things like that. Working at a comic shop, owning a comic shop for many, many years, I can count on one hand the amount of people who come in there and go, this isn't for me. It shouldn't exist. It's just not how humans think. It's not how people operate. They just don't buy it. But anyway, I'm sure that there are long-term comic creators, people who are big fans of Daredevil Born Again, who are not fans of Gwenpool. And beyond the obvious, those are clearly aimed at two very different audiences. The Daredevil Born Again audience at least exists. The Gwenpool audience doesn't. At least not anywhere close to the level that it should. I'm not saying nobody wants these comics, but I'm saying that the target market for a Daredevil Born Again, or a Secret Wars, or a Dark Knight Returns, or a Watchmen, or any of those other books, the market size of the people who those will appeal to is significantly larger than Gwenpool. Now, I'm not saying that every single comic that is written should be, forced to live by Watchmen standards of sales. That would be insane to say that. But it does beg the question of, okay, so of the new audience that we're getting, is this a big new audience? Is this new audience being obtained? Are people actually going for this? Like, we're making a lot of bets here around this new group that doesn't seem to be enjoying the comics. And here's the thing, that new group does exist. So people like to bring up Raina Telgemeier and, Dav Pilkey. And, there's a lot of YA, people always bring up Raina, but there's a ton of YA graphic novel authors that are actually doing well. The Babysitter Club graphic novels are a phenomenon inside the store. They sell really, really well. Scholastic makes lots of money. Lots of different creators on those, including, I think, Raina. I believe she did a couple of those back before she started doing her own stuff. But anyway, I think she illustrated a couple. But, that audience exists. That audience is there. That is the audience that when Marvel or DC will tell you, we need to get these new readers in here. We need to get that's why we're doing Squirrel Girl or Gwenpool. The flaw is that Squirrel Girl is a bad version of Babysitter Club. It's a failing version of Babysitter Club. It doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually get those sales. The approach is that they can pull them in, but it doesn't actually happen. So, what's the answer there? Well, is it to give up on that audience? No, you shouldn't do that. I mean, the money's there. The audience is there. You should go get their money. But you're going to need to hire better people who are actually good at it. I think that's the flaw. Is, we can look at something like, and I'm beating up on, the Unbeatable Wasp. Okay, the Unbeatable Wasp with the, Girls Club or the Agents of Girl, and then, they're going to have that was clearly somebody who read some of the Raina books, some of the Babysitter books, and said, I'll do this, but for Marvel in comic book form. The only problem is it was done terribly. Like, they didn't actually work. Stories weren't entertaining. They didn't land that audience. The audience for Babysitter Club did not show up to buy The Wasp. And you could say, there's lots of reasons for that. Certainly one of the reasons was, the Babysitter Club's in more places. Scholastic has it. But I think they did put a trade of The Wasp in with Scholastic, and it didn't sell there. So the only thing we have to come back to is, it's not appealing to the audience you're going for. The person who's making it is not good at the job. The job being attract that audience to make money. I think you hear a lot of YouTube videos around why are they attracting that audience? They shouldn't, appeal to the old content. You could do both. You should. You should appeal to the people who buy superhero books and have been reading those for 30, 40, 50 years. You should absolutely keep appealing to them. They still have money to spend. Go nuts. You also should not let Scholastic take all the attention. Get some of that Scholastic money. Put out a good book that is going to appeal to the Scholastic YA young girl audience. Absolutely do that. However, you need to put good writers on there, good artists on there. If you're going to do it, you actually need to do it well. And so to the narrator of, these comics are not working for old or new. So, there's money in them hills. But, if you hired, Dean Koontz, horror writer Dean Koontz, I haven't heard that name for a while. If you hired him to do a bunch of YA, girls coming of age books, that probably is not going to go well. So maybe don't hire a bunch of, people who do not know how to do the job to do the job. Anyway, I'm tired, man. You give me a break. Yeah. Hey, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thanks for listening.